fellow Americans.
Let's talk about the situation at the border. We've seen a huge surge in migrants crossing the border since January. The number of children in custody higher than it was than its 2019 peak during the Trump administration. Your colleague Veronica Escobar of Texas called the conditions there unacceptable. She was there on Friday. Is she right? What more must be done?
Actually, the facts are these. There are more children, about 600-700 more children, unaccompanied children, coming over the border. This is a humanitarian challenge to all of us. What the administration has inherited is a broken system at the border, and they are working to correct that in the children's interest. I'm so pleased that the president, as a temporary measure, has sent FEMA to the border in order to help facilitate the children going from one 72-hour issue into where they are cared for as they are transferred into family homes or homes that are safe for them to be.
And I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021, when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking. Now, whether it's intentional or not, it could be argued that the United States government has become the middleman in a large-scale, multi-billion-dollar child trafficking operation that is run by bad actors seeking to profit off of the lives of children.
Russia said once they take Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. Those are NATO countries. That puts America at war. This is about preventing war. It's always been about preventing war. My husband is a combat veteran. He's deployed now. The last thing I want him or any of his military brothers and sisters to do is to go to war.
But I think it is time to give the Ukrainians more help hitting these bases inside Russia.
One of the reasons that the administration has hesitated is because they believe it will escalate things even further with Russia pull the U.S. further in. Why not? Why? So why do you think that's a good idea?
Because it's Russia that has escalated this war. Russia has learned how to pull its forces back out of the range where we have allowed Ukraine to use our weapons and get our support.
American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they've done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States are not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it. That is not journalism. It is government propaganda. Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people. At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin. Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. They've never heard his voice. That's wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in, and we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too.
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III.
Ron Wyden was confronting the most senior spy in the United States, General James Clapper, who was then the director of national intelligence, right? There's no guy higher than him. The buck stops with him when it comes to intelligence. He's testifying under oath in front of Congress, right? But more broadly, in front of the public. This is televised. And Ron Wyden asked him a very specific question about a program, mind you, that Ron Wyden knows exists because he has security clearance. He sits on the Intelligence Committee. And he knows there's domestic mass surveillance, and this is how it goes. This is how the top spy responds under oath.
So what I wanted to see is if you could give me a yes or no answer to the question, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
So that was a lie. Wyden knew it was a lie. Clapper knew it was a lie. He actually admitted it was a lie after I came forward, 3 months later. Here I am, sitting at the NSA, next to my buddies who I've talked to about these programs. I've gone, look at this, and they're laughing at it. I'm laughing at it, and it's not that we go, oh, ha ha ha, he's getting away with it. It's like, what are you going to do? These guys are, they're bullshitters. The system is built on lies.
That was British police came into the embassy and arrested.
After a long flight from the UK, Julian Assange's day began on the island of Saipan, a tiny territory chosen because it's the closest US court to Australia. This normally quiet courthouse, swarming with reporters as the WikiLeaks founder arrived flanked by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd.
Used an AR-15 in order to act out his assassination attempt. An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
What I'm hearing is that a perimeter was not established outdoors in an outdoor venue that would prevent an AR-15, which is one of the most common weapons used in mass shootings, from being able to be within the range of Secret Service protection.
Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
So what is the threat to democracy? People on both sides, people in power, saying out loud that they want to control what you get to hear and see. It is real, it is a threat, and it is happening and growing. And I'll tell you what, punishing thought is on the agenda. And I just heard it from someone who's not a kook, not Alex Jones, not Tucker Carlson, one of the most sober and intelligent politicians of our time, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
I think it's important to indict the Russians, just as Mueller indicted a lot of Russians who were engaged in direct election interference and boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg admitted that the Biden administration repeatedly pressured Meta to censor content, including information about Hunter Biden, and Zuck admitted that he also regrets complying with these demands. In a letter to the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, Representative Jim Jordan, Zuck writes, quote, "The FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it."
You know, you do some tweets that seem to be, or at least give support to some who would call others conspiracy theories.
Well, yes, but I mean, honestly, you know, some of these conspiracy theories have turned out to be true.
Which ones?
Well, like the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in awe of Ms. Jankowicz. When the department picked her, did it know that she had said that Mr. Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation? Did it know that she had vouched for the veracity of the Steele dossier?
Senator, let me repeat myself and add an additional fact. One, we do not discuss internal hiring processes.
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech.
To be a conspiracy theorist is to have been right all along, despite the efforts of the paid-for liars. And it's also to be demonstrably well ahead of the gullible, still believing in smoke and mirrors. Conspiracy theorist was first used by the CIA to shut down those who doubted the official line about the murder of John F. Kennedy, that fishy old tale about a lone shooter and a magic bullet, and then that lone shooter being shot by another lone shooter before he could talk. That was in the 1960s, and from then, the label conspiracy theorist worked for decades as the means to make thinking people too scared to speak when they smelt a rat. Let 2024 be the year of clearing out the rubbish, the trash, the long overdue year when the past or sell-by-date labels, conspiracy theorist among them, are cast into the dustbin of history.
Holy smokes, everybody. Welcome into Redacted on this Wednesday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris.
Just when you thought we couldn't have a lot of news, holy smokes, today's show is jam-packed. On this show, we cover the stories the mainstream media largely ignores. We are not sycophants on this show for any one side. We will tell you the truth. And there's a lot to like today. Trump just announcing some bombshell picks for his cabinet, some good, some terrible. We're going to talk about all of those. Plus, Trump went back to Washington, D.C. today, met with President Biden. We have a huge Senate vote that just happened a few minutes ago. We'll bring you updates on all of that on the show today.
Yeah, it looks like a light rundown that you see on your screen, but it's not. We have a lot. Plus, Ukraine freaking out because it seems like Big Daddy is going to take them to the peace negotiating table when they've been acting like petulant teenagers not wanting to go. I'm here for that.
We also
waiting for that. That's something that I voted for.
We also have a big UFO hearing today, the second UFO hearing, and some unbelievable revelations. Finally, like, we've moved past the point when we're talking about alien bodies being recovered. Yes, we all know that. That's well in the possession of the United States government. You'd have to be an idiot to not understand that. Now we're talking about technologies, and some we heard from Rear Admiral Tim Godot today at the hearing. Some unbelievable revelations about zero-point energy technology. So that it just wrapped up in Washington. We're going to bring you some highlights of that.
Plus the media in freakouts, layoffs. The liberal media is suffering the worst. Is it because they were the biggest liars?
Probably.
They're saying, we can't participate in X. Is it because they don't want to be community noted anymore? Because they don't want to push their propaganda? How will you cope without Don Lemon and The Guardian on X? We're going to have to find a way together, you guys. It's a hardship.
Plus, Roger Stone is here. I spoke to him just a few minutes ago, actually shortly before one of the big bombshell announcements, and his biggest concern is that they are going to try to assassinate President Trump and try to do it and be successful before Inauguration Day. That's his biggest concern. We're going to talk to him just in moments. So we've got so much to get to today, literally jam-packed show for you. Thank you guys for subscribing and being a part of our show here every day. It's a free show, so we really appreciate that. Thank you for being a part of our show. We're going to get to all of that news in a second, but first, every single day I use ExpressVPN. We wouldn't be able to do our show here at Redacted without it because so many of the news sources we need to access are censored. So let me explain how this works. ExpressVPN is an app that encrypts and reroutes your online traffic through secure servers. Now, how does that work for us? Well, for instance, every day I use ExpressVPN to access different news sites around the world because of censorship in a lot of these countries, whether it's in Canada or Europe or even in the United States. Websites are blocked. Many of our Canadian viewers have trouble accessing our show sometimes. In France, many important websites are blocked all throughout Europe. I mean, this is a common occurrence because of censorship. This is what we're living in right now through this era of censorship. It's really, really sad. But ExpressVPN allows you to anonymously reroute your traffic through any server that you want. So very often I'll use one in the United States. I'll use a server. You can pick one like in New Jersey or Arizona or other parts of the country. You can go to Iceland if you want to, or neutral Switzerland. You can pick servers all over the world to anonymously surf the web. And the worst, of course, is public Wi-Fi. If you're at a coffee shop or something like that and you want to do some banking or some personal emails, you should never, ever, ever just be surfing on public Wi-Fi without having ExpressVPN turned on, running in the background to protect yourself. That's all because hackers can easily steal your personal data when you're using unsecured public Wi-Fi. ExpressVPN has been on my computer for years. It's a must-use app that I use every single day here on Redacted. Natali has it turned on and running on her computer as well. It's constantly running on the background, not only on our phones, but on our main desktop computers. Right now, you can take advantage of ExpressVPN's Black Friday Cyber Monday offer to get the absolute best VPN deal you'll find all year. Use my special link. It's expressvpn.com/redactednews to get 4 extra months with the 12-month plan or 6 extra months with the 24-month plan totally free. That's expressvpn.com/redactednews to get an extra 4 or even 6 months of ExpressVPN for free. So thanks to them for supporting the show. We only have a few sponsors here on the show. We are not one of the mainstream media news organizations that has 25 commercials during a show. We usually have like 3 or 4. So thank you guys for that. And thank you for supporting independent media. We are not legacy media. So thank you guys for that. All right, let's get into it. So much news to get to today in Washington, D.C. So President Trump arriving in Washington, D.C., goes to the White House, meets with President Biden. He meets with the House, the House, and shakes hands hands with Mike Johnson. He got a standing ovation among House Republicans, gave a speech there. Elon Musk was in the room at the time. He stood up, got a standing ovation. So that was a big moment there. And then, of course, he arrives at the White House and President Biden shakes hands with him. This was a really awkward moment because President Biden said, "Welcome back." And he was thrilled to see him. Welcome back. And you know the smirking going on because I think according to reports, President Biden and Jill Biden voted for President Trump. So this was like the I don't know, scorched earth strategy, and said it was going to be a smooth transition back into the White House. It'd be a totally smooth environment.
What else would you say? It makes total sense to say welcome back.
Yeah, I guess you would, right?
Gentlemanly.
This is come back to your house. It's kind of weird though, because like he beat him.
Yeah.
Right. So he kicked him out of the house.
Right.
And then it's like kicking a roommate out. Now he's coming back.
But Trump is not kicking out Biden. The Democrats did that.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. The coup that took place is the thing that kicked him out. Before we get to the Senate battle, we have to talk about all of the breaking news that happened just a few minutes ago, right before we came to air. So your new Attorney General, if he is, of course, confirmed, would be Matt Gaetz. Congressman Matt Gaetz will be the new Attorney General of the United States. President Trump choosing him just a few minutes ago. That's great news. So you're getting some good and the bad here, right? You're getting some great nominations. They have to be appointments.
Well, it's interesting news because, one, he introduced a bill to remove troops from Syria. He's actually paying attention to the fact that the United States is illegally occupying Syria. He has introduced bills to withdraw from Ukraine.
Yemen?
He has, yes, introduced bills, that's right, to withdraw from Yemen. And he has been vocal about weaponizing the federal government and the Justice Department specifically. So him in charge of the Justice Department would put somebody who's looking out for the fact that the Justice Department would not be actively working to dethrone Donald Trump, which happened when the FBI decided to interfere with the election by hiding the Hunter Biden laptop story and lying to the American people about it.
Yeah, so Matt Gaetz, fabulous choice for Attorney General. I'm thrilled about this choice. Tulsi Gabbard, also announced today as head of Director of National Intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard, amazing choice.
Again, she was targeted by national intelligence.
And now she'll be heading
it. Spied on. She was stopped at national security checkpoints as a threat. Now she's going to get some insight into why'd that happen. Can I see my file, dudes? Now that I'm the boss?
Why am I considered a terrorist? I served my country with distinction. I was in Congress, and you're flagging me as a threat on aircraft? Like, hi, I'm in charge now.
Right.
Hello, I'm in charge. Also in charge of the
Department of State.
The Department of State.
Marco Rubio. Where's our flashing poop emoji?
So we talked about this yesterday, of course, or 2 days ago now. Was it 2 days ago? No, yesterday we talked about it here on the show, and we warned all of you that this was probably going to happen, and we had hoped that it wouldn't. Trump took a long time to actually make this official after these leaks came out. I want to know where the leaks came from, though, on Marco Rubio. Who leaked this information? Did Marco Rubio leak this information? Mm-hmm. I want to know how long this guy is going to be in this job. He is not an America First guy. He's absolutely a warmonger, and he's a pro-Israel guy. So he is Israel first, warmonger.
He's a Ukraine first, Israel first. He loves war. There's not a war he met that he hasn't joined the Clean Plate Club on that war.
And even, go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't it a silver lining, though, that if he doesn't follow Trump's agenda, he can get rid of him at any point, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. He wants to end the war in Ukraine. He doesn't want to escalate in the Middle East. So if Rubio steps out of line, you're fired. And I think that would be an amazing. So I hope that, we'll see how this goes, right? Does a leopard, though, change its spots? Is that the phrase? Does a cheetah change its stripes?
That guy talks a lot of shit. I would love to see him walk into a room with Vladimir Putin and talk that kind of shit to his face. I doubt he would do that if he was forced to be part of the peace envoy.
Yeah, he was also in cahoots with Victoria Nuland, right? You'll recall that whole thing. So I'm not a fan. Even Tulsi Gabbard basically says that, he would be a terrible choice. And Ron Paul yesterday says if anyone is focused on America first, this is a terrible choice for America. You have people like Elise Stefanik also being chosen by Trump. Again, Israel first as a UN ambassador. So again, it's basically like Israel gets two ambassadors to the United Nations. America's, which is now Israel first, and their own in the United Nations. This also comes on a day, by the way, when Turkey has just announced they're done. They're done. We have no relations any longer with Israel. We're finished, and there are no connections to these countries at all anymore. So this comes at a really interesting moment. And so again, you get some good and you get some bad. You get Matt Gaetz, you get Tulsi Gabbard, and then you get Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. And just a few minutes ago, of course, the Senate voting to put in place John Thune. Now look at your screen here. It was Rick Scott of Florida. You have John Cornyn in the center, and you have John Thune on the right-hand side. He will now replace, on the right-hand side, John Thune will now replace Mitch McConnell as the majority leader in the Senate. And what's really crazy is Rick Scott only missed the second ballot by just 2 votes. So MAGA lost in the Senate. And, we do not want Thune in there at all. Remember Tucker Carlson just a few days ago posted, they're going to have the secret ballot. You gotta call your members of Congress right now and demand Rick Scott as your choice, because otherwise you're going to have like another Mitch McConnell in there kind of pushing up against this. Thune has been around, he's a swamp rat. He's been around since 2005. He's like your classic establishment guy. He loves Ukraine. He loves Zelensky. He's a Mitch McConnell type of guy. I don't know.
Was he one of the authors of that crappy border bill? I thought I remembered seeing his name on it.
That's a good question.
Because they said it was bipartisan, and I thought he was one of the authors or sponsors. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure he was.
Something I teach my kids: if you don't know, just say I don't know, Daddy. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. To be honest with you, that's a blind spot for me. But we'll see what kind of Republican Party looks like that now. And with him being able to push through the agenda, Charlie Kirk, I think, summed it up well. He tweeted this just a few minutes ago and said, John Thune is Senate Majority Leader. He has a short window to show us that he will support President Trump, fill his cabinet positions, confirm his judges, and pass his agenda. If he does, we will support him. If he doesn't, we will work to remove him. And you should remember that President Trump has a mandate. I mean, he has an absolute mandate because all of the Republicans that he supported that ran in this election won. Those that won because of Trump's support and overwhelming popular vote support for President Trump. So he has the mandate right now. So will John Thune get in the way of this? You recall the last time, 2017, when they were trying to put all of these things in place after his inauguration, Mitch McConnell got in the way of a lot of it right out of the gate and really slowed a lot of that momentum down. So he has all of these things he's planning to do right away. Will John Thune get in the way? I don't know, but he has in the past, of course, spoken out against him, says we don't need him as president of the United States. He wanted other candidates. He spoke out pretty publicly about that. So, yeah, we'll be watching this very, very closely.
Well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, took a swipe at her own party on Monday. Now, she's been doing a ton of Monday morning quarterbacking. What went wrong? How'd we miss that? What conservative podcast should I listen to? What do the American people really want? It's very existential, all of her sort of video blogs that she takes to the internet because she thinks everybody wants that from her. But she says that Americans are sick and tired of fake people. That's interesting coming from her. She says Kamala Harris was supposed to be the alternative for Donald Trump, but she says people can see through kind of these fake alliances. Watch her say this.
Personally, I don't. I think that a lot of voters really don't like fake people, and they're sick and tired of fake politicians. And so what I actually think is worse is saying something you don't believe. And so if during the entire time in campaign season, you're saying that you're down with trans people or like the LGBT community, and then you lose an election, and then the next day you say all that stuff was wrong. I actually think what people are more upset about is someone was doing something they didn't believe and just saying something. Like, if you actually weren't about that life, why did you campaign as though you were?
Right, yes.
I think that she doesn't understand the passage of time. Like, you can't vote for someone who then after the election didn't support the reasons you voted for. None of that makes sense. Like, in hindsight, you knew that that person didn't really support those things because you knew that after your vote was cast, they would drop that. It makes no sense.
Well, also, she's admitting that she knew that Kamala Harris was phony and totally fake on every issue, right? So what she's doing, why didn't you tell? So you're lying. You're fake. Why didn't you tell us ahead of time? You knew that she was lying. Why didn't you get out on camera, AOC, and tell all the Democrats she's phony? Like, we need a better candidate here. But you kept that close to the vest.
The same reason she campaigned as an anti-war candidate, and she's not really that. She's fake.
Right.
You're fake.
She's so rich to tell us or tell Democrats
And then
about
support
fakery.
every war she's been able to vote on. She voted for war funding every single time.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. Good point. Physician, heal thyself.
Right. So it's being called the Kamala chameleon approach. So it could be a cautionary tale for Democrats in the future. By the way, don't pretend that you own guns. Don't pretend that you're for the sake, the security of the southern border. Don't pretend that you want men kept out of women's sports when they dress up and they pretend to be a woman. Like, all of those things. Don't pretend. If you did, we would, if you actually believe those things, you might be conservative. You might be libertarian. You certainly wouldn't be a Democrat right now if you're anti-war. Oh, boy. Well, get this. Here's a bombshell story that the mainstream media is ignoring. The CDC was planning concentration camps in the spring of 2020, according to newly released documents. So imagine this. In the middle of a national crisis, your government, yes, the CDC, sat in a room and planned a massive system of quarantine camps across the United States, camps where they would isolate entire groups of people based on their health status, their risk profile, as they called it. It sounds like something out of a dystopian movie, but no, in fact, it's the United States of America under your CDC. It's real. It was called the shielding approach. The shielding approach. Thanks to Jeffrey Tucker for breaking the story over the Browning Institute. Now, according to the CDC's own documents and plan, here you can read it, the interim operational considerations for implementing the shielding approach to prevent COVID-19 infections. This has now since been removed and hidden. The CDC is trying to hide this now. This is their detailed plan where they would set up green zones to physically separate people considered high risk. Imagine that entire populations, possibly your loved ones, packed into quarantine centers with severely restricted movement. By the way, they did this in Australia, as we covered it here on the show. They even included provisions in this plan to limit outside contact, meaning no religious gatherings. So you couldn't go to church or anything like that if you wanted to. No family visits. You want to go see grandma? Sorry. Your government is telling you, no, you can't. No legal recourse either. So no, your lawyers couldn't come and meet with you to protect your rights. Like, hey, you're putting me in a quarantine camp. Can I see my lawyer? Sorry, you can't. National health risk. CDC says so on their shielding approach plan. You're in there indefinitely, all in the name of public health. Now they'll tell you, oh, this was just a precaution, right? But let's be real. This wasn't about protecting people. This was about control. Pure and simple. And while they didn't roll these camps out specifically, this plan, I think, speaks volumes about the mindset of these public health institutions, the Dr. Fauci's, the people in the CDC, the people that were lying to you, all of you. They didn't scrap it because they saw the error. They didn't scrap it because they saw the error in their ways. They didn't shelve this at the time. They only removed it once it was revealed and long after it was drafted. Here's Jeffrey Tucker's reporting on this. He says, no matter how bad you think COVID policies were, they were intended to be worse. Consider the vaccine passports alone, he writes. 6 cities were locked down to include only the vaccinated indoor public indoor spaces. They were New York City, Boston, Chicago, New Orleans, Washington, D.C., and Seattle. The plan was to enforce this with a vaccine passport. It broke. Once the news leaked out that the shot didn't stop the infection or transmission, the planners lost public support and the scheme collapsed. This is a warning about the unelected health bureaucrats and how far they are willing to go. And that's why, like on shows like this or independent media that we're calling out this stuff, we need to amplify that as much as possible, because all of your mainstream media and legacy media was telling you that, Rachel Maddow telling you that the shot, stopped the spread of COVID, right?
She did say that.
And all these mainstream media organizations were telling you they were all sponsored by Pfizer.
They still say that. In fact, the LA Times still said that when they were taking a hit at RFK Jr., saying that the COVID vaccine
prevented the spread?
Yes.
They're still printing that?
And saved lives. Yes, they still, in their hit piece over the summer on RFK Jr., they still said that. And they only link to studies that show that the COVID vaccine lowered the use of ventilators. That's all they've got.
So thank you for subscribing to our channel here.
Yeah, if we were to say that on YouTube, we could get banned for just
Isn't that crazy?
Like, even suggesting, yeah. And
they reversed their course.
Times.
Yeah, YouTube did a 180-degree flip, you recall. When we were reporting that, we got strikes. We got 2-week ban. YouTube blocked us and banned us for 2 weeks for reading Pfizer's own documents on the air. And then they reversed their policy 180 degrees. You can no longer say that it stops the spread, right? Now, if you say the opposite,
We're not
you get in
saying
trouble.
either of those things. Let's just leave it right there because we're still beholden to those.
Yeah, no,
rules.
we are reporting what they said, what the Los Angeles Times said, but that's not what we said.
Right.
So anyway, full stop there.
Okay. Ukraine, they are very sad that Mike Pompeo will not be part of the new Trump administration. This headline here deserves a middle finger. Officials in Kyiv disturbed by Pompeo's snub. That's because obviously Pompeo is a war hawk and would keep that war going. And that's what they want. Ukraine is upset that Pompeo will not have a role in the Trump administration. We know this because Donald Trump over the weekend announced this, that both Mike Pompeo and Nikki Haley would not have a role in the upcoming Trump administration. And Kyiv officials called this, quote, a negative development. They worry that J.D. Vance's position will be the new U.S. position. What was that? Well, namely that U.S. has no interest in supporting the war in Ukraine, which is true. Now, President-elect Donald Trump has said that he wants this war to end. And there are reports now that he is working on compiling an envoy to Ukraine, much like the Middle East envoy that he already has appointed. Here are the headlines on that. Now, this would be a group of people, non-salaried, according to Fox News, who would go to Ukraine and force Ukraine to show the heck up at the peace table, at a negotiating table, which is why earlier I said, if Marco Rubio becomes Secretary of State and is part of that envoy, I would like to see him talk all that shit that he talks on the news to Vladimir Putin's face and see how little Marco looks then. Okay, but earlier today on Fox News, they had a contributor called Brett Velikovich. He is a former special ops guy, and he told Fox News that he's been in Ukraine recently. And in Ukraine, they're actually super excited about Donald Trump's election because that means that there is a leader in the United States that could, in fact, lead to peace. So they said that the media is lying to you when they say that the Ukrainians don't want Donald Trump. Watch.
But wanting the war to end soon does not mean not supporting Ukraine. People don't seem to remember that Trump provided lethal aid to Ukraine during his first term. He didn't appease Russia during the first term. He's just simply stating he wants the war to be over. And a lot of people want the war to be over.
Absolutely.
Ukrainians are very resilient. They're fighters from birth. They'll fight till every last man, woman, and child. But we shouldn't make them have to do that. We wield a lot of power as the American government, and Trump needs to use that power. Ukrainians want peace. They want the war to end. And one of the more annoying things that I have to see when I'm in countries, I have to sit there and watch liberal media coverage of the region that's been running near nonstop lies about how Ukrainians supposedly feel about Trump and pushing this fake agenda here in Europe the last couple of days of how bad supposedly Ukrainians think it is that he was elected. And that is just not true. I've had a lot of conversations with senior Ukrainian government officials who nearly every single one of them say the same thing. There is overwhelming and resounding excitement that Trump won the presidency and how much he's going to help Ukraine. They see Trump as the answer to ending this war and bringing back peace to that country.
Yeah, no crap. Yeah. They don't want to die anymore.
Yeah.
You know, nearly 1 million Ukrainians have been killed thanks to the U.S.-backed coup in 2014 that led to the entire decimation of a generation of young men in Ukraine. You want to say that this was Putin's unprovoked war? Well, you're an idiot. It's not. Read books. Understand the United States CIA-backed coup that instigated this entire thing needs to be stopped. Trump knows it. And the Ukrainians now have had all of their young men destroyed, killed, or maimed beyond recognition. They don't want this anymore. And so to hear like these sort of Washington Post reports or The Economist is saying that they're upset with Trump winning is a total lie. Don't believe it 1 second.
Right. Well, you know who is upset, though, that Trump won is Zelensky, because this narcissist will no longer get on the cover of Vogue. He won't have any more media tours. If the war ends, then Ukraine will have to hold presidential elections, which Zelensky canceled, you'll recall. So they can't even vote him out. But if they get the chance after the war ends, then they will in fact do that if Ukrainian voters have any sense. Now, The Hill reports that Trump has a personal disdain for Zelensky, as if that's a personality flaw. Well, then I have that personality flaw. Anyone who has studied the history of this war in Ukraine should have this personality flaw of having a disdain for Zelensky. Boris Johnson, who is not in power right now, told GB News that the UK would just step up and send some troops to Ukraine if the United States stops funding that war. He doesn't have any authority to say this. That's probably a good thing, but the British people might want to shut that down because he caused hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians to die by stink bombing the peace negotiation in 2022. This could have been done, but he deterred Zelensky from the already signed peace documents. So again, the Kremlin now is denouncing him for saying this. They said, having ceded power, Johnson continues to provoke and incite. In other words, shut up, Boris Johnson. The rest of us want peace.
I love this meme today. A lot of these memes are going around on social media, like of President Biden consoling Zelensky. He's crying and he's just putting his hand on him. You know, AI generated, but this one's going around today too. Zelensky calling up Trump. Is money coming? Go F yourself. And then he starts crying. And Trump laughing. I love that.
Go away, troll.
Go away, little troll. We're done giving you money, that's for sure. All right, we got more news here. Okay, let's talk about this UFO hearing today. The second big congressional UFO hearing today in Congress. We finally moved past the bullshit, everyone. Finally. 0 point energy, the actual technologies finally starting to get discussed here. Yes, like we've already established, the United States government has alien bodies. They have biologics. That's already on the record from the last congressional hearing. We don't need to rehash that. Yes, the United States government has these advanced technologies. Yes, the United States government has these crashed UFOs. They've had them for decades. Basically, any idiot knows that by now, or you're just willfully ignorant. So we don't need to rehash all of that once again. Now, you had Michael Schellenberger there, journalist Michael Schellenberger, Luis Elizondo. You had a number of other individuals, Rear Admiral Tim Godet also there speaking. So you had some pretty powerhouse individuals speaking in front of the Congress today. Michael Schellenberger put out 212 pages of UFO evidence and government cover-ups to Congress. He handed that over. In fact, he had to basically tell Congress, hey, you guys, there's a secret program at the Pentagon. It's called Immaculate Constellation. You guys should probably know more about it. And that's one of the big things that they were discussing today during this hearing, that they have thousands of high quality UFO images, videos, FLIR camera images, all of it. You had Luis Elizondo, of course, who worked in the Pentagon. He just stated under oath that the government UAP program secrecy is, quote, all to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos. We all know that, but watch.
Over the last decade and a half, I learned that certain UAP programs were and are operating without any of these elements. Although much of my government work on the UAP subject still remains classified, excessive secrecy has led to grave misdeeds against loyal civil servants, military personnel, and the public, all to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos.
Yes, we are not alone in the cosmos. I think we all know that. And some very important, though, on-the-record discussions about how these alien craft travel using etheric energy. We're done past the bodies part of this whole hearing. We got that. We know that we have bodies, right? We know that we have the craft. So how exactly are they traveling? And finally, we started getting questions about etheric energy, about 0 point energy. I encourage you to watch my deep dive interview about the disappearance of MH370 Malaysian Airlines with physicist Ashton Forbes. I think it has almost 2 million views here on the channel. I go and watch that interview. He's astonishing. Nikola Tesla knew about etheric energy. And then, of course, they stole all those documents and they hid all of this technology right after he died. The FBI did, of course. So the UFOs have a way of extracting energy from the environment, from the air, negative energy, and it's all free. That's the thing. All of this energy is free. And so this is one of the big disclosure things we might now see under Tulsi Gabbard as head of the Director of National Intelligence. Also, the new director of the CIA, which we'll get to in a second. So a lot of big revelations specifically around the technologies piece during this 2-hour hearing today, which I watched. But Representative Luna asks specifically about UFO energy sources and whether or not it would impact humanity for the better or for the worse. Of course, it would be for the better, but, we got to ask. We got to do this little dog and pony show, but watch.
perspective is A, that true? B, are you guys hearing the reports of that? And C, I think moving forward in regards to technology, Mr. Gold, if you can answer this real quickly, some of these aircraft, it seems that they are operating off of energy that we don't currently have. But just yes or no, in your opinion, if we were able to obtain that, would that impact humanity for the better or negative?
Would certainly save us some money on funding on Artemis.
Definitely.
And this is a national security issue, that if there is such technology out there, we're not the only country that might have access to it. We don't want to be on the wrong end of technological surprise.
So yes, we have this technology. We've been using it for a long time. All of this technology is well known within the United States government. You're not idiots. And it's being used by the United States government as we speak. During this hearing today, whistleblower Rear Admiral Tim Goday said we have satellite video of UFOs, lots of them, in fact, and hopefully Congress will make mandatory to release these videos to the public. Again, he's an admiral. He sees it all. And by the way, he's specifically been on the beat talking about all of the underwater UFOs that have in the ocean off of U.S. Navy craft, that they see them regularly. Talk to any person who's been on one of these U.S. Navy destroyers for any length of time. They've all seen them, by the way. Talk to them. Journalist Michael Schellenberger said we have full motion video, FLIR camera videos, infrared videos of UFOs. And by the way, he talked about low Earth orbit satellites. So we have all of these low Earth orbit satellites that are able to capture in color these UFOs, full color video, just like this. This one was leaked by a whistleblower, of course. This is MH370, the missing Malaysian Airlines. And watch as the three UFOs that in perfect triangular formation come right around MH370. And zoom right here. Here, there's the second one. And here the third UFO comes in. And then you'll watch as then, of course, using this etheric energy, the 0-point technologies, make the craft disappear. And so the United States government is responsible for this. Watch as then the airliner disappears. Right here, I believe. Right after this cloud. Watch. Here we go. This is an unbelievable video. And it's been confirmed. This is 10-year-old video, by the way. There we go. Disappears. And that aircraft, of course, gone. What? So 0-point technologies, they've been recovered from these UFOs. The United States government has them. The capabilities of this technology are monumental. We're talking faster than light travel. Imagine never needing to get in an airplane again because we already have this technology, but they're keeping it from you because they like to charge you for energy, of course. Instantaneous travel, unlimited energy that's pulled from the atmosphere. By the way, Trump's new head of the CIA, I'm hoping that he is going to disclose this. This is John Ratcliffe. He has been pushing for UFO disclosure. He will now be at the head of the CIA. He was trying to get this done while he was head of DNI or at DNI. Now Tulsi Gabbard will be at DNI. But here he is talking about trying to get this disclosure out to the American people. Watch. Trump will see more of this. So, yeah, more on. And by the way, we're trying to get the Rear Admiral Tim Goday on the show. I've been emailing with him. So hopefully we'll have the Rear Admiral. He just testified in front of Congress today, and to have him come on and talk about some of these technologies that he's seen as Admiral in the United States Navy.
Well, we're seeing a media melt.
Sorry. No,
go
I just
ahead.
want to chime in. Like, so if they do like disclose this, and we find out that the government knew they were there, but didn't want to tell us, like that's one thing. But if they come to find out that they've had this technology, they have 0-point energy, and they know how to use it, like we should all be incredibly pissed that they've kept that from us because like they basically set us back. Yeah. And so like if it comes out that they've actually have that technology, I'll be pissed.
They have, and I've spoken to sources that know of this, and one of the sources I spoke to, an expert, watched as they used this technology on a human limb that was missing, and they were able to regrow the limb. So not only it's travel, ultra fast travel, lightning fast travel, but also the health implications of this technology. It's astonishing, and we should all be pissed about it. Think about eliminating cancer. Like, we have the technology that eliminates cancer. We have the technology that doesn't make me have to go to the frickin' airport and wait in 6-hour flight delays to travel somewhere. I could go there instantaneously, but they keep it from us.
What do you mean, by beaming?
I'm talking about 0-point energy, fast travel, light travel. So they have this technology. They're using it. They're keeping it from us. And I'm glad
But why wouldn't you have to go to the airport? You could do 0-point technology from your house.
Maybe. Have you ever seen Star Trek? I could just stand on a teleporter pad and be able to go. I don't know how exactly it would work in practice. And and what sort of craft. But anyway, now we're getting into like,
I didn't
what type
realize that this was consumer-based technology.
It will be.
Okay.
It could be. Well, I mean, when Nikola Tesla had it and had I mean, that's the thing. When he died and they went to his apartment in New York City and the FBI took all of his materials.
Yes. Yeah.
And they hid it from us because he had discovered etheric energy and his plans to make all energy free to all of us, where we wouldn't have to pay an energy company at all.
All right.
I mean, come on, people, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Let's talk about the media meltdown. Specifically, though, it's the liberal media, the leftist media, that's hurting the most. That's strange. Isn't it kind of strange? Well, there are reports now that MSNBC and CNN are announcing major layoffs, even of on-air talent. This headline from The Hill says CNN to axe hundreds of employees in a new round of layoffs, and MSNBC suffering a new low, as if they could stoop no lower. Now, we don't know exactly which on-air talent will get the axe. I have a list, in case anyone's wondering. The Guardian, meanwhile, announced that it will no longer use X, formerly Twitter, and fired CNN anchor Don Lemon says he's doing the same. He's leaving. A lot of leftists are leaving in... Aww. I know, it's really sad. How will we cope? Now, could this be a temper tantrum because they are losing their influence? Just today, ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino said this. Clearly, she's trolling these idiots, saying X usage is at an all-time high and continues to surge. To all of our users of every interest, political party, and point of view, you will always have a place to engage and join the global conversation freely and safely. Legacy gatekeepers are yesterday's news. That's why they're having such a hard time coping with this, because they can't just say bullshit without getting community notes, without having people say they don't want to hear this or that's not true, or having to face real conversation. They don't want to do that. Now, The Guardian says they're leaving the platform because, here's the quote, they think the benefits of being on X are now outweighed by the negatives, and the resources could be used promoting our journalism elsewhere. Where? I don't know. They say that the platform is rife with far-right hate, but they don't specify what that means. To prove that there's far-right hate on X, all they link to is a personal narrative of one of their journalists who tried to leave X and then decided not to. It's dumb. That's not proof. You're doing it wrong with your hyperlinks. Just this woman said she felt like X had helped fuel January 6th and the Southport riots, which turned out to be based on valid concerns about terrorism and immigration. But okay, good riddance to them. So do you think this will help the existing problem that we showed you in recent Gallup polls, that trust in the media is at an all-time low? Here is Don Lemon, legacy media CNN anchor who was fired. He says he's leaving X, and here's why.
Hi, everyone. I have loved connecting with all of you on Twitter and then on X for all of these years. But it's time for me to leave the platform. I once believed that it was a place for honest debate and discussion, transparency and free speech. But I now feel it does not serve that purpose.
Okay, he goes on to say that the new terms of service for X are such that if you want to litigate against them, it has to be done in Texas, because that's where Elon Musk has headquarters all of his companies now. And he thinks Texas favors Republican type concerns, and he thinks that's a scandal. I don't really see that a scandal, that you on your own company give yourself home field advantage on your terms of service. Pretty much every business contract specifies the state for litigation, and you get to choose where you think you would litigate the best. That's how this works. So maybe he's never seen a contract before. Actually, we know he's seen a contract because we have leaked documents of the contract he tried to put in place with X. Recall earlier in the year, he was trying to launch a show on X because Elon Musk had said he wants a diverse view of platforms and diversity of viewpoints after Tucker Carlson launched his successful show on X. So Don Lemon said, okay, I'll step up, I'll do this. But the Daily Mail leaked his diva demands, and the list was insane. You can find it yourself here. It included $5 million, a Tesla Cybertruck, $10 million per year in free ads to his show on X, a fully built out studio paid for by X, the ability to advise the company company on all decisions about news content, which means he wanted to decide what gets censored and what doesn't. He also wanted the ability to approve any other news shows that X might put on the platform. So if, let's say, Redacted was going to go there, he would say, no, I don't want them. I do want them. He wanted to be fully in control. And I know it's funny, right? It's hilarious. And he wanted a share of all future shares on X plus equity stake. You want to laugh more about that, Philip? I love this.
How big do you think your
I just
name is to demand that stuff?
Exactly.
I know.
Like you've got to be so full of yourself to be like I know it's not my platform, but it is now. If I'm there, it's mine now. I get full control over everything. Like, settle down.
I mean,
dude.
when I worked at Fox News, I was there on Fox and Friends for many years, and every 3 years it was like contract renewal time, and I sort of lived in fear. I'm like, I hope I did a good job.
Right.
I hope they like me enough to invite me back and to offer me a new contract for another 3 years. And I used to go through that every 3 years at Fox News. Like, imagine the balls to be like, I want a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Hey, Roger Ailes, I want a Cybertruck. I'm not gonna anchor Fox and Friends anymore unless I get my demands.
I want to be your on-air talent hiring person. So if I don't like somebody that's also on the network, I want to say to kick them off.
Oh, you're thinking about hiring Tucker Carlson? You call me first, and I'll make a decision.
It wasn't even. I mean, look at these documents. Go back and look at the documents from the Daily Mail, and it wasn't even very formal. It called him Don. Don wants this, and Don wants that. I mean, if you look at his content on YouTube, because he's no longer going to be serving it on X, his view count's not super great. So people are not really thirsty for his opinion on things. Maybe it's going to be better because he won't dilute it by putting it on X. But I don't mind saying that his show is horribly obnoxious. What he does basically is roam the streets, bothers people to ask them about their politics, and then interrupts them and tells them they're wrong. Watch, here's one example.
Women I've been talking to are really, really concerned, and they're emotional, and I think a lot of them have a right to be.
Politicians aren't perfect. They're imperfect like everybody else. Trump's rhetoric isn't for everybody. His style isn't for everybody. We got a lot of good things done under Trump.
Okay, then what they did, meaning a woman's right to choose, is removed under Trump.
That's not the only issue in this world, okay? A percentage of the female vote went up 2%. So are those women crazy? I mean, it's not 50%, but it's high 40s, and he got that. So ask those women, like, they voted for Trump. So clearly it wasn't just abortion was the issue. Now, I agree. Even in very Republican states, pro-choice amendments have done very, very well. Okay, so it is a concern. I think most people are pro-choice. Okay, but at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of people. There's other things. They're concerned about the broken border. They're concerned about crime. They're concerned about inflation. They're concerned about a lot of other things. So women are not one-dimensional. Men are not one-dimensional. And so if you're upset about abortion, great. If that's your prime issue, then go live in a state that's pro-choice. If it's not your one issue, like a lot of people vote for Trump, you got other things to care about, and he'll fix those things. Not totally, but he'll do his best.
I think it's easy for you to say as a man.
Well, dude, it's easy for me to say about a lot of things. Sure, I'm not a woman. That's why I don't opine on abortion.
It's amazing all of these uneducated.
So condescending.
Well, it's amazing all these uneducated Trump voters who are not well read on the issues.
Yes, that's what I was thinking when I was listening to that. I was like, okay, guy. I mean, if you see Don Lemon coming up to you, he's going to try to condescend whatever it is you say, no matter how brilliantly you say it.
I would have been like, why'd you ask me the question then, idiot?
Right.
Yeah, if it's so easy for me, then don't talk to a man about abortion.
But also, did you notice how what a dick he is too, Don Lemon? It's like, the whole time he's looking at him, he's like looking at who else is like looking at him. He's like, oh, there's a woman over here. Hi, how are you? I'm not even listening to this guy talk right now. I have my agenda. Oh, hi, how are you? He's not even paying attention to this guy.
Is that really a good point, though? Like, it's easy for you to say this. Like, it's easy for any of us. We're not currently being killed, so we have the opportunity to talk. So anyway, he won't be on X anymore. It's so sad you won't be able to find it there, but you still can find his work on YouTube and Facebook, and he'll have to bankroll it himself.
Oh, great. So sad on that. Hey, Roger Stone is up next. We're going to play that interview for you. I just spoke to Roger Stone just a few minutes before the show, and some unbelievable revelations. His biggest concerns right now about Donald Trump's safety, and will they try to assassinate him again? before the inauguration on January 20th, and the deep state swamp rats that are circling Trump right now. Maybe Marco Rubio, perhaps. We'll talk about that. But first, stay free, friends, because as you know, the war against free speech is in full swing. Rumble, the home of Stay Free and the leader in defending the fundamental human right, recently joined X to sue a cartel of advertisers and ad agencies who conspired to block ad revenue from going to those platforms. Even Dunkin' Donuts didn't want to advertise on Rumble because of what they call right-wing culture. And as a way to rally around these issues, Rumble recently launched Rumble Premium, an ad-free viewing experience with some great perks for both viewers and creators. You can dive straight into your favorite content, whether on mobile, desktop, or smart TV, and savor every uninterrupted second. Upgrade to Rumble Premium today and support free speech. Go to rumble.com/premium. Use the code redacted to save $10 off. That's rumble.com/premium. Use the code redacted to save $10. And I should point out, they don't censor comments over on Rumble. In fact, a few minutes ago, people were asking here in the chat, as they were watching, somebody on YouTube was saying, hey, is YouTube censoring our AOC comments? Because we showed you the AOC video a few minutes ago. We don't censor comments, but YouTube does censor comments, and Rumble does not, from what I understand. So anyway, the free speech platform over on Rumble, so our thanks to them. So just a few minutes ago, I sat down with Roger Stone and asked him, because he on Monday dropped quite a bombshell on his concerns about President Trump. We spoke just a few minutes, of course, before the news broke on Tulsi Gabbard, and this is going to make Roger very, very happy on this big news here. But here is my interview just a few minutes ago with Roger Stone. Watch. On Monday, warned that he is worried about the security and safety of President Trump, and that there are deep state forces that are trying to keep him from putting his hand on the Bible on January 20th. In Washington, D.C. to become the next president. And we thought we'd invite Roger on in the midst of all of this chaos right now to talk about it. Roger, good to see you. Welcome back to the show. So a lot of moving pieces over the past few days. Has anything changed from your warning a few days ago, worrying about Trump's safety and sort of these, whatever deep state Democrat swamp rats that are trying to keep him from becoming president of the United States? The Democrats have been kind of silent, and that's kind of scary to me. I know we had a couple of viewers yesterday say the Democrats have been a little quiet, and that's scary. Are they cooking up something that we should be concerned about?
Yeah, I think we have to absolutely assume that they're up to something diabolical, because people do not, these kind of people particularly, do not give up power voluntarily. The will of the people means nothing to them. They proved that in 2020. And the president's mandate now is so broad, so sweeping. He really is in an extraordinarily strong position to forge an entire golden age of America. We could have the most unprecedented peace, prosperity, opportunity, and justice and security this country has ever seen. But to do that, he's going to have to dismantle our current elite cabal that, in conjunction with their allies in the media, have a very different idea about America. So my number one concern is his safety. Now, if there hadn't already been 2 assassination attempts against him that we know of, you might say, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. But no, they tried to kill him twice. And those particularly who think that perhaps, appropriately, they will be put on trial for treason, because there's treasonous activity, in my opinion, in the Russian collusion hoax. I think that they will go to any length whatsoever. So all these people now hitting me up on my phone for inauguration tickets, I'm not sure I want to see him out on the portico taking the oath of office, in public. I kind of wish that he would do it in a private, highly secured ceremony inside with all the necessary officials. It's not that he's afraid. He's afraid of nothing. He knows no fear. But I do fear some other attempt to destroy him. I worry about it when he flies, for example. Back when I was a lobbyist for Angola, for the Angolan freedom fighters, I helped them get shoulder-launched, Stinger missiles. They can take down an airplane. So that's my number one concern. And Look, I'm not in the security business, but I am a soldier in the army of God, and I pray about it every single day.
It's terrifying, and especially when, yes, we've had all of the failures of the Secret Service over the past couple of months, and now he gets to appoint the head of the Secret Service, somebody who's going to protect him. He gets to pick his own security detail in many ways and make sure that he is safe and secure. In many ways, that might be the most important appointment that he makes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also agree with something that our friend Sean Hannity often says. The problem in all these agencies are not in the middle or the lower levels of the agency. I think you have a lot of good men and women there who are committed, to the rule of law and to doing their job. The problem lies at the leadership levels of these organizations. When my home was raided by 29, fully SWAT-clad FBI agents brandishing fully automatic M4 assault weapons, they were in my house for 13 hours. They would look at you and roll their eyes. They would wink at you, like as if to say, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I'm doing this because I was ordered to do it. So I do think we need somebody at the top of the FBI, particularly of the Central Intelligence Agency, particularly of the Secret Service, particularly, who's prepared to clean out those agencies and ensure that those who are there are committed to the rule of law and the protection of the president and the country.
You mentioned the lawfare piece of this, right? I mean, coming to your house and all of that, and then everything they've been going after Trump. It seems to me that there's a respite now. Jack Smith set to maybe step down, pulling back on these on his prosecutions. But then you have Letitia James in New York saying we're ready, we're battening down the hatches, we're getting ready. This lawfare piece, I'm a glass half full kind of guy on a normal day. But something seems fishy with this. Are they done going after Trump on the lawfare side?
I think zero chance. First of all, if I were Letitia James, people in glass houses should not throw stones. She is right now fighting freedom of information requests regarding sexual assault by her own chief of staff, which I believe she has covered up. She's also trying to deny the public access to records about some of her own misconduct in that area, she's protected by a corrupted system. But ultimately, I think the public's going to learn about those things. Also, there is the financing of her entire career. Back when she was on the city council, remember, a contribution to the New York City Council of under $250 gets put through a 10-to-1 campaign finance match. So if the money was illegal to begin with, and much of it I can prove was, and then was matched with the taxpayers' money, there's two violations there, two very serious violations. It's kind of like with Eric Adams. No, this was not that he just got a coach ticket bumped up to first class or he got an extra Virgin, Bloody Mary. He took $10,000 from Turkey illegally. He gave it to straw donors. He washed it through the state's campaign finance program, turning that into almost $800,000. And in return, he allowed the Turks to inhabit a building that had no occupancy certificate and should have had it. He also, in the case of Letitia James and Eric Adams, there were multiple complaints about prostitution and drug activity and sex trafficking in this club in the Bronx that they all had almost like their clubhouse, but those were quashed. There was never any investigation. So I would say, again, people in glass houses should not be throwing stones.
The deep state swamp rats that, of course, even Candace Owens was warning about yesterday, swirling around Trump, trying to bring down his presidency. Maybe that's their strategy. They've tried assassination. They've tried lawfare. They've tried all of these strategies, maybe to try to undermine him once again. Trump admitted that his biggest mistake from the first go-around was that he had too many deep state swamp rats around him. This time, I think, you certainly involved. There's been great celebrations to have that Mike Pompeo, man who tried to assassinate Julian Assange, is not going to be in this administration. Nikki Haley, absolutely thrilled that she's not going to be in this administration. So we're getting some wins Are you concerned at all about some of these picks that we have been confirmed by Donald Trump on Truth Social that he has officially appointed or nominated, I should say, for some of these positions? Or are you worried about the deep state swamp rats circling Trump?
First of all, in terms of those appointments that we know to be real, I mean, that are confirmed, I have to say,
exactly.
no, I don't have any concern. For example, I think the appointment of Tom Homan is a great appointment. He is a tough, no-nonsense guy. And if you're going to do, as Dwight Eisenhower did, you're going to deport millions of illegals. Eisenhower deported 1.3 illegals who had criminal records from the country. It can be done. It just takes the will and the know-how. Tom Homan's the man for that job. Very pleased with that appointment. I have no problems with anybody who's been formally announced yet. I have a few reservations about those who are speculated against, but I warn people in this atmosphere, there's a huge amount of information out there that's not necessarily true. And in the internal maneuvering, the way to sink a candidacy is to plant a story that says, so-and-so will be appointed to this position when they haven't been. Then they get blamed for putting out that leak, even though they themselves did not do it. This is the oldest trick in the book. Look, I was the head of youth for McKinley. I've been around a long time. I've seen this act and the way they leak to try to take out prospective candidates.
Right. Then you get this enormous backlash, and then it's a convenient cover for to be able to say sorry. A lot of people wondering if Trump is going to pull one of those Mitt Romney moments again, invite him in, big interview, show him the door, and kick him out. What you know Trump better than just about anyone. What do you think is Trump's biggest blind spot right now, walking back into the swamp once again?
Well, look, I love Donald Trump. I owe him my life. He does like flatterers. There's no question about that. This is how I think Mike Pompeo got away with it so long, until Donald Trump realized that Mike Pompeo not only is the guy who talked him out of releasing all of the JFK assassination documents, he is the guy who actively pushed a CIA plot to assassinate Julian Assange, who is a journalist, does the same thing that you do, that you've done your whole life, takes facts and makes them known to people. Maybe he never read the Pentagon Papers case. I'm not sure about that. But also Mike Pompeo is the guy who insisted that the Jack Smith classified documents case was legitimate, which it wasn't under the Presidential Pardon Act. So very happy. I like to think that maybe he read my Substack piece on this, because I did Mike Pompeo's greatest hits and I sent it to him. I also kind of reminded him about Nikki Haley and her treachery in the same piece. And well, the very next morning, he put out that famous posting on Truth Social and X saying that they would not be joining the administration. Now, I'm not saying it was cause and effect, but I like to think I contributed.
Yes, and I have separate sources that will confirm that your work on this was instrumental. So thank you, Roger, for that. I think we can all applaud you for making sure that Mike Pompeo and Nikki Haley are nowhere near this administration. So thank you from the bottom of my heart on that one. I think, looking forward, we've got 68 days now till Inauguration Day. What are you hoping, I'll get you out of here on this, Roger, what are you hoping that Trump will do over these next 68 days? And what are you hoping he will expose over the next 68 days, if anything?
Well, I'm very anxious to see where he places Tulsi Gabbard in his administration. She is one of the most talented, impressive women I have ever met in 45 years in politics. She's an amazing communicator. She's up with Reagan when it comes to her abilities as a communicator. And having served on the Armed Services Committee, having served 4 terms in Congress, having been vice chairman of the DNC and seeing how that party has been taken over by radical socialists and Marxists, a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, a combat veteran in both Iraq and Kuwait. And no one, literally no one, other than Donald Trump and J.D. Vance themselves, no one worked harder for this victory. 31 days on the road straight, speaking to rallies with RFK, on her own, with the president and RFK. she's someone I really want to see in this administration. Also true of Kash Patel. Kash Patel did more to expose the Russian collusion hoax than anyone, save perhaps his boss, Devin Nunes. He is someone I want to see in this administration. I hope the president will avail himself of those talents. These are the kind of people he needs around him who understand they weren't elected president. Donald Trump was elected president. Their job is to carry out his agenda, not to dilute it, not to slow it down, not to cancel it. I think that those are two things that I'll be looking very keenly for, and I'm very optimistic. I know the president shares my high regard for both of them. And then lastly, of course, is Robert Kennedy. See, I think that the move to make America healthy again is vital. And I want to see him in a position where he can make sure that happens. He deserves a huge amount of credit for this victory. I just saw an authoritative study. 86% of his voters showed up and voted for Donald Trump. The rest of those people were never going to vote anyway. There were people he brought into the process. That's a miraculous number. He worked very hard to make sure that happened. So I'm looking for a strong appointment by him as well. Those are the three things that are on my mind today.
Yeah, I think you and I are in alignment like that. I would love over the next 6 months to find out that our children's school lunches are now suddenly healthy. They've removed pizza from the menu. They've removed processed foods from our diet. And, you know, it's make America healthy again. I mean, why is the United States of America the fattest country in the world? I mean, it's so sad. And cancer's exploding across the United States. So I'm with you on that one. Roger, great to see you. You can check Roger out at the Stone Zone, watch his show as well. Thank you for what you've done to keep Pompeo and Nikki Haley out of there, Roger. I thank you for that. So we'll be checking back with you over the next few weeks, I'm sure. Thanks again, Roger.
Anytime, Clayton. It's really great to be with you.
So thanks to Roger. Yeah, Roger and I sat down right before the show and did that interview because he had to run, and so then we just got the Tulsi Gabbard news like right afterwards. It's like unbelievable, and he was just like hoping, and that we were all hoping that she would get an amazing role in the Trump administration. I mean, so she's going to literally be in charge of the people who put her on a terrorist watch list.
Yeah,
this is I love this kind of stuff. It's like, hey, where's I'm the new boss. Like she's going to walk in there.
I'm waiting to see RFK Jr.'s position now. I mean, come on.
I think they're holding that one back. They're holding that one back. That's going to be the big one.
What if she gets to those classified documents and agrees? She's like, oh, maybe I should be on the terrorist watch list.
Right.
I did this. Yeah. I made a joke on X that if she spies on my text, because the government watches all of your communications, then at least she'll know that we're best friends. Right. She hasn't called me back. So I'm waiting on that. All right. We're going to take your super chats in just a moment. So get those in if you want. But before we do that, we want to tell you about our friends over at American Financing, because the Fed has just dropped interest rates for the second time this year. And because of that makes it an even better time to call our friends at American Financing, because this may be the perfect time for you to consolidate your debt. We all know that the Biden administration wrecked our economy even further. The Federal Reserve continues to have an appetite to pervert natural market forces. So we are at the mercy of politicians, and that's why our finances have all collectively become so hard, with daily expenses and your utility bills just running out of control. So many people are putting those expenses on credit cards. So if you have debt to consolidate, what you can do is what wealthy people do all the time, is leverage their assets. And most likely the asset that you've got to leverage is your home. If you have equity that is yours, you can leverage that, get yourself out of debt, and give yourself some breathing room. And if you start today, you could even delay 2 mortgage payments and save your monthly budget $800 a month. So let them teach you this. It's just a skill that you can learn by heading on over to americanfinancing.net/redacted. They'll help go through a personal consultation for your finances to see if this works for you, or you can give them a call at 1-866-890-8434, or once again, visit americanfinancing.net/redacted.
All right, let's take some of your super chats today. And people are asking, where's Douglas McGregor in all of this? And I haven't asked Doug if he would want another role in a Trump administration. He was obviously served under Trump before, and he left. And he wasn't happy about it. You know, he really felt like there were a lot of deep state swamp rats that got too close to Trump, and he wasn't happy about it. So he, fingers crossed, I think, is hoping that those same deep state swamp rats are not here this time. But then you get Marco Rubio in there, and you become very concerned. So
one of the swampiest
of the swamp,
in my opinion.
Well, our friend of the show, Ian Carroll, though, just posted this. He said some of Trump's picks seem awesome, like Tulsi for DNI. Yes, Tulsi Gabbard for DNI. Some of them seem atrocious, like Rubio for Secretary of State. Yes, we agree. Most of them are Zionists. A few aren't. Seeing him follow through on creating Doge is amazing. He says, I'm going to reserve judgment to see what actually happens, not trying to pretend like I'm experienced enough to have a highly educated opinion on all of these people. I like that. And maybe, again, as David brought up earlier, people like Marco Rubio and these others will just fall in line behind Trump. Trump doesn't want us to continue the war in Ukraine. Do you think Rubio is going to allow that to continue under Trump? Trump says, no, we're done.
Right.
So is Rubio going to get his way? Well, I don't know. Why don't you pick somebody who's in alignment, though, on that position? I just find it's weird that you're picking someone who wants us to continue war.
But ultimately, Trump's his boss. You know what I mean? So, like, it's like, I got you to do this job because I have an agenda, and you either follow it or you're out. So
yeah,
and fired, and then DeSantis gets to pick another senator in the state of Florida. So anyway, all right, let's get to your Rumble rants first.
Okay, Pagan. Rubio is for Trump to have an attack dog. Deal with Trump or deal with Rubio. Choices.
Attack dog. Okay.
G. Fontaines 119. I played baseball and went to multiple schools with now Governor DeSantis. Maybe he'll appoint me as the junior senator from Florida. I will not serve more than 4 terms, though. I'm Constitution Party.
Okay. Go lobby for that job. We'll back you.
And Viv B. I support sending Don Lemonhead to outer space. Send Joy Reid and Richard Maddow with him. Bye-bye.
Richard.
I can't type this in YouTube super chat.
Richard Maddow. Yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that, Richard Maddow.
And David, your deadpan delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to send the rest of the screen. The rest are YouTube.
Okay, thank
next
you.
one's up on. All right, Claudia.
All right, from Claudia Schindenholz. Love Tom Homan as border czar, legend when he schooled AOC and told the chair that she works for him and has as a taxpayer. That's how it's supposed to be. Yeah, let's see it.
It wasn't AOC, by the way. It was Pramila Jayapal, who was the committee chair, who was smashing the gavel and telling him to shut up. And he's like, Mr. Holman, you better pipe down. And he said, you work for me. I'm a taxpayer.
He did go toe to toe with AOC on family separation.
Yes,
though,
that's true.
in that hearing. Yes, you're right. Okay, 199 from Drake Leo 21. Zion Dawn, Israel first. And again, we have to wait and see, but it does feel like that.
Psyop says, I do truly have the faith.
Don Lemon.
No, I think
maybe.
No.
I don't know. We hadn't talked about Don Lemon early in the show. If this was an early one, but
yeah,
who
I think
knows?
Zion Dawn, and they're referring to Donald Trump. Psyops, I do truly have the faith. Yeah. Psyop says, I do truly have the faith that if Rubio does not perform to the America First standard Donald J. Trump is setting, then Donald J. Trump will fire and replace him. Yes. He's not afraid to fire people, as you know. So, and I think it would be kind of an amazing moment and a nice comeuppance, but we'll see. Michelle Schwab. As far as Rubio being Secretary of State, there's an old proverb, only Nixon could go to China. Thank you for bringing the truth to us every day.
What does that mean? Only Nixon can go to China?
Well, the idea was that only he could go and make the deals and open up the West or open up the East.
Okay. Got it.
Maybe.
So it's at the president's agenda. Gotcha. Okay. From Canada, Sean Gaw. Clayton, look into Enterprise Canada linked to convoy protest, and Brian Fox holding ZZ flags to demonize the convoy protests. Okay. Thank you for that.
Sean. Thank you.
$5.99 from LC Mark. Zelensky is not elected anymore, and he suppressed opposition. Lindsey Graham said, we fight until the last Ukrainian. Who's we? A great point. That's what Kamala Harris said also in the debate stage, that we shouldn't give it up. I don't remember Ukraine being a state of the United States, but that's what she said.
John DeLeo. Etheric energy science is back. Yes. Thank you to the UFO hearings today. And finally, on the record, you have Luis Elizondo admitting that, yes, we do, that aliens do exist. So that's on congressional record now officially today, thanks to that UFO hearing. But Extreme Steve says we could all have our own 0-point energy flying cars. Yeah,
Okay.
you wouldn't even need to fly. It would literally point A to point B and you'd be there. You wouldn't need a car. You wouldn't need to like worry about getting a stereo and getting your favorite music and
Yeah.
your
Imagine
Sirius
how
XM.
often the in-laws would be over, Clayton. If we didn't have to fly to go see
Maybe
them.
that's why they're blocking 0-point energy. Right.
All right, $5 from M. Clayton, the book I recommended yesterday was State of Terror by Thomas Schorer. Also, you have to have Suarez.
You okay?
No,
You get those glasses.
hang on. Also, are you going to have Phil Turney on the show from USS Liberty?
Yes, actually, I am working on Phil. Phil and I have been communicating, and we're going to have him on here. Hopefully, trying to get him in the studio. That's the goal about the USS Liberty. So, thank you for that.
Okay, I shouldn't use readers.
Sorry, what was the name of the book again? Sorry.
Can you go back to it?
I know.
It's okay. We'll get it.
State of Terror.
Okay.
By Suarez. Got it. Okay. Yep.
€2 from Mako Seiko. Sorry. Name of the first who entered Tesla's room was Trump. Name of the first who entered Tesla's room. Trump was the first one. Okay.
Oh, right. It was
or something like that, or Trump.
Yeah, right. On the FBI.
Oh, Nikola Tesla, not the Tesla showroom. Yes.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Okay. $5 from Shore Skeptic. Remember the time Don Lemon got wasted live on TV? Yes. He got wasted on New Year's Eve broadcast. Yeah, I remember that.
By the way, can I just show this real quick here? Because why?
Just, I'll tell you later.
Okay, you can't. I can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, $2 from Claudia Schindholz. You got to be in the swamp to know the swamp. Okay, good point. Maybe inside infiltration. $6.99 from Canada Crisby. You guys rock. Keep up the work. The world needs truth from your concerned northern neighbor. Thank you so
Crisby.
much.
Florida Local says, thanks for calling out Trump's Zionist cabinet. No one else has the balls. This is real news. Thank you, Florida. Let me just say this, okay? There's a lot of conservative alternative media channels out there, right? Some are great, but some, I know this from working at Fox, okay? The reason they won't call out these things is because they want to have like good guests on their show. They want to curry favor with Trump. They want to have these like relationships. And so they want to have like people in their studio and they want to like have good, all of that. That's why they don't call them out. It's called journalism by omission. They are leaving out key pieces of the story. I don't give a rat's ass. So I'll have on people from Trump's administration and I'll ask them these questions right to their face.
And we haven't said Donald Trump has done anything wrong yet. We're just saying these are flavors we don't like when it comes to the buffet.
So that you'll notice the channels that want to curry favor will not mention any of this. They won't talk about Marco Rubio being a warmonger. They'll praise him as a great choice. They won't talk about...
I haven't seen anyone hold back on that.
I have. I'm not going to name names, but
Okay.
there are a few conservative news shows out there that are alternative that will not. They've not talked about Elise Stefanik. They will not. They will not bring up the negative because they want to curry favor. So, and that's their choice. They can do that if they want. And they want to be in that world and they want to go to like, conventions and like, go to these like conservative political action committee conventions and smack hands and high five everyone and go in the back room and go out to dinners and then post on social media that they're hanging. No, I am going to tell this stuff because this is the stuff that bothers the crap out of me. And you can see it across conservative media and it bothers me. So I will talk about it.
It's okay, but it's like
I'm just saying, this is exactly why.
Well, we don't need to break our arm patting ourselves on the back. Like, they're not doing it, but we are.
I'm not patting myself on the back. We could get, by the way, here's the thing. We could get way more views on this channel. Like tens of thousands more people would watch our show if we just were in the tank and didn't call this stuff out.
Okay.
That's how it works. I'm just telling you, that's how it works. We could get way more views on this channel if we were in the tank and we did kiss their ass. So, we're actually hurting ourselves by calling them out on this.
Okay. Yes, gotcha. $2 from Viv B. It was typed out Richard Madcow, not Richard Maddow, David. If that was true on the road.
It was really small
Gotcha.
text.
That's even better. €6 from Edigio Pugliese. Trump is like the Count of Monte Cristo. Ooh, that's such a good book. Revenge Time. Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Anchor Howell. Have you heard anything new about FEMA in Michigan? Yeah, I have heard about all of these trucks, these 350 trucks. And maybe we'll have more on it tomorrow in our morning newsletter. We have a free daily newsletter, by the way. If you just go to redacted.inc, you can sign up for our free daily newsletter, and it pops up every day in your inbox, delivered to you first thing in the morning while you're having some coffee. We will hopefully, we'll look into this a little bit more, and it'll be in that newsletter.
Are there any more super chats?
That's all of them. We made it.
All right. Well, thank you for being here with us today, you guys. It's great to be with you. These cabinet positions keep rolling in. We're going to keep covering it. A lot of politics, still wars going on, so stay with us. We'll see you here tomorrow, everyone. Thanks.